think the biggest difference in terms of how advertisers approach operating across different geographies is that really the customer behavior just isn't uniform. It'd be a lot easier if it was, but when you look at a customer's path to discovery, the path from discovery to purchase, there really isn't a lot of consistency around the globe. China is a great example of this, of course. Social commerce is so prevalent and has exploded over the last 5 years. And while that's an emerging trend in many other parts of the world, the differences in penetration, maturity are quite stark. And so that creates challenges in particular for regional or global advertisers, because their challenge is, how do I connect the dots across all of these countries and not run with sort of a vanilla approach that really won't deliver the efficacy everywhere? The other thing that I think is notable is that every country also tends to have that one thing that they're really proud of, that thing that they hang their hat on. And for example, in Japan, it's the quality. It's insisting on really high standards. In Brazil, it's all about the passion for creativity. And so I think there's a great opportunity for some of these international countries outside of the US to punch above their weight class and build a proof of concept, establish a playbook that then can scale globally. And we're excited to be a part of that at Amazon and help them do that.
Tamir, let's stay with that global perspective. Global expansion is a priority for many brands, obviously. What's the biggest mistake those brands make when they start advertising outside of their home country?
The biggest mistake is assuming that offline success will automatically translate online, and or assuming that the trends of customer behavior from a brand's home country will just automatically be true in whatever other geography they want to expand to. And it's interesting when companies pursue traditional media solutions, they tend to understand that needs to be localized. But when it comes to digital, I think there's an expectation that it's going to be simpler, scalable, efficient, and that can lead brands sometimes down the wrong track because they assume a uniform approach everywhere will work when it rarely does. What works instead is really starting with the customer and working backwards from their buying preferences. How do they shop, browse? How do they consume content? What's a customer's path to purchase look like? What does the competitive set look like? What else is in their basket when they're considering other products? Thankfully, this used to be a very hard thing to gather at scale across countries. Today, it's actually not that difficult. So we offer a number of different tools through our Amazon Marketing Cloud, our clean room solution, where brands can actually gather those signals and really dive deep into customer preferences in a way that's very actionable, and it can enable them to deliver on the right localized solutions that can have impact.
Tamir, it stands to reason then that advertising evolves slowly across different regions. All advertising is local in a sense, I guess. What's the trend you're seeing in one market that you think other regions, though, will likely follow?
I think it's definitely the democratization of creative through AI. If we just step back for a second, I think any marketer will agree that personalization is critical in terms of driving relevancy, and that relevancy will then drive better performance. But the rate limiter has been the ability for brands to produce the variety and volume of creative needed to achieve that at scale. And the places that maybe felt the pinch of that more than others would be countries that are maybe more geographically dispersed, require different language or cultural considerations. Either they get left off the plan or are left with creative that just isn't that effective. But thankfully, I think that that those days are over. Through tools like our image generator or video generator, you can produce professional creative with a click of a button, no incremental cost, and that allows you to just go so much deeper in identifying the right impactful creative for key customer cohorts, and to really tailor your creative strategy to each individual marketplace. And I was recently in Japan visiting some of our advertising customers there, and I was just blown away by how leaned in our partners are in both embracing AI, embracing the tools that we have, pairing that with their own capabilities to drive both that relevance and personalization, but also just iteration to experiment and find the right creative that's going to have the most impact. I think that it's early days, but exciting stuff.
So Tamir, as you alluded to, the idea that while there's a lot of differences among advertisers in different regions, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. These trends really do travel like people. So when you're talking to advertisers from different parts of the world, what's the common thread in what they're asking for, and where do their needs maybe diverge?
I think everywhere you hear a couple of commonalities. I think you hear that brands are looking to drive personalization at scale. They're looking to drive full funnel outcomes, and they're looking to move really fast. And I think where we see the differences are really in the definition of scale and the state of maturity of a particular business. So, for those that are anchored, maybe a large established business in a mature marketplace, the conversations are really about, where do I find that next pocket of opportunity? What's the next customer cohort to unlock? And, it could be a little bit more about precision. Whereas for some brands that are launching, in a new way, in a new country, a new region, or just getting started, it's really around where do I have product market fit and what's the best place to start? The good news is no matter where you are on that spectrum, the foundational tools are actually no different. So, with us, it's our DSP, it's Amazon Marketing Cloud to unlock that personalization, leverage our signals paired with a brand's own first-party signals, and then it's AI tools to drive the efficiency and the creative. When you put all those things together, we can help businesses big or small achieve great success.
To me, you gave us a wealth of views across the spectrum in terms of advertisers approaching the world as it is. But what's one thing that every advertiser should understand about international advertising right now?
Yeah, I would say it's just how important it is to start with the local insight, start with the customer insight, and work backwards. Building a successful global business is not as turnkey as you think, but it's also not as hard as maybe it sounds with that need to drive localization. The mental model that I think about is that a brand should know as much about their customers in every individual country that they operate in as they do in their home country. And we expect our advertisers to hold us to that bar, and with the business partners that we work with, we hold them to that bar. And so I think it's exciting to look ahead and see how much room there is for growth when we nail those basics.